Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 22.
Or Episode 44 if you're counting.
As always, we're brought to you by the Southwest Animation and Gaming Expo, happening January 30th through February 1st
Of
2015.
Good.
Okay, I had that memorized. That's great.
You want to tell them about the thing this weekend?
We got a thing this weekend, which I don't know if you guys will hear about soon enough, but we got a thing tomorrow down at Relentless Gaming, and that is a thing.
It's our 1 year till event. We'll have a couple of artists out there, a little bit of tournament gaming going on, both card and console based. It'll be a nice time for everybody, so come on out, bring your friends, bring your family.
We're doing some showing of some animation stuff. We're going to show a whole bunch of cartoon intros that you can sing along with. That'll be really cool. I just really don't know if you guys will be hearing this in enough time to, go.
If you don't show up, we'll probably tell you about it next week.
Anyway, over at swagexpo.com, you can see information about the location and the times and the events being held there, so that'll be great fun.
I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and talk about the stories ahead of time, what we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, we'll be talking about a few Xbox One releases, really more than just releases, a whole bunch of leaked information from a guy inside Microsoft.
I've been waiting a few weeks for the information to compile on this, but I will be talking about the Showa versus Heisei Kamen Rider movie war that's coming out just within a few months from now.
And finally, we've learned that Hayao Miyazaki is not too thrilled with the direction that the anime industry is going in, and that the problem lies within the industry itself, and we'll tell you what he thinks that problem is a little bit later on.
The answer may surprise you.
Really?
Or it might not.
Really?
Well, it might. You don't know that.
Alright, that was just a really tacky line.
It's not tacky, it's just commonplace.
Okay, anyway.
Before we get any further into our usual program here, we decided early on, within the past week, that this episode would more or less be dedicated to the memory of a good friend of ours who most of you would know by now, Justin Carmichael.
Otherwise known as JewWario, who for quite some time worked with us over at thatguywiththeglasses.com and Channel Awesome before he left to pursue his own interests. But he passed away earlier this week, and honestly, I've said quite a bit online in other places, but I think it bears some repeating here, as this is really our venue for, well, speech. And this is hard. It's hard for me to talk about out loud, even. It's almost easier to type it than it is to say it out loud. Over these last 4 years or so, he's just grown into such a good friend with common interests. And I first met him in 2010 when we went to go and film Kick-Assia. And I had literally just gotten off the plane from Japan, and I immediately had to get on another plane to go to Reno, Nevada, and it was just a very, very immediate sort of connection, because Justin had spent time in Japan as well. When he heard that I had just gotten off the plane from Japan, it was just nothing but talks of, oh, what did you do? How did you like it over there? Did you study? What did you eat? It was all these cultural sort of conversations, and it was like from that point on we found that we were even among fellow producers, because when you produce videos online, you do already find a kinship with one another, but then to also find that you have other interests that are similar as well, you find yourself connecting to specific producers, I think, more than others. And of course, many of you know that he asked me for help with his Kamen Rider material, Josh, you and I sat together with him talking about different things to work on.
There was, really the first time I met him was, 3 years ago now, back at the first MagFest I ever went to, and I said this as much as on Nash's broadcast from this past Saturday, but I remember when I met him, of course I initially knew him through you, but as soon as you introduced me, I went to shake his hand, as I usually do with new acquaintances, and he said, no, we don't do handshakes, we do hugs. And he just gave me this big old bear hug, not even knowing me from the next guy there at MagFest, but he instantly made me feel welcome there. And later on that day, yes, we went up to his room, and he went over plans for Kamen Rider, and we shared, stories about, what we liked about Tokusatsu. We even threw around ideas about suit design and things like that, and gave him a couple of pointers on how to make the suits and whatnot. That was our bonding point as far as that goes, and it was always a pleasure to run into him every time we went back to MagFest. He was always somebody you could count on to have a smile for you.
Mm-hmm. And I know there were pretty big plans for Kamen Rider out of him. He had this big old Indiegogo project so that he could do a mini-series, and just as I had helped him with the creation of his original 2-part series, and thus also the intro for all of his reviews that he did as Kamen Rider, he was going to get my help in making this series, and I was to come out to Colorado and film with him, perhaps work on another song. We're not really sure at that point. There were plans, but the plans just kept, there were all these difficulties, and I think we both got really frustrated, and then I think he got really disappointed that he wasn't making good on these things that he was promising people. And I think maybe because he loved people so much, I think that might have been part of what was sitting on his heart so hard, was that he didn't want to let people down, which is a good quality, but it's something that you can't let eat you up.
No, by no means.
And I mean, of course, sort of dancing around the subject of how he passed, I suppose, but I'm sure you can look that information up yourself, but to be fair, well, let's go ahead and say that when you need help, and go find that help, and that's something that everybody is saying right now.
Yes.
That this was not something that it seemed like he ever felt he could address with anybody, and therefore, how could we have known that the problem was as big as it was?
I think it's worth noting how after all of this information has come to light, how much not just that guy with the glasses community, but really the internet as a whole, save for the jerk here or there, has really come together and banded together, and they have nothing but the nicest things to say about him. Everybody's united in that opinion of who he was, and in that way, that's the legacy that he leaves behind. Somebody who was accessible, someone who was friendly, someone who really you didn't have anything bad to say about.
So, I think a lot of people will go through and ask why this is so senseless. He was only 42, young in the grand scheme of things, and God, if he had just come to us sooner, or I wish I had been here to do this, I wish I had been here to do that. Really, at this point, if there is anything positive to be said about the outcome of any of this, it's that so many people have now come out and said, hey, this can't happen to anybody else. Let's get you the help that you need. Yes. Or, even my fellow Channel Awesome producers have all said, I don't ever want to lose contact or feel like I've drifted apart from any of you. I always want to be there for you guys, and I know it seems like the crappiest thing to have to get that bond from.
Yes.
It's never the way you want to go about doing it, ever.
And just the same, I'm also incredibly proud of everybody who contributed to the fund for his family, really raising over $13,000, originally having that goal of just getting his
like
biggest...
850
initially, just to get his biggest fan out there, but then she did one of the most noble things I've ever seen and turned it around and said, you know what, this is bigger than me, let this go to his family. And I applaud that. Like that makes me get all emotional just thinking about that, honestly.
So to kind of wrap the idea up, I think, for now, because I could go on and on about
yes, of course,
about the good times I spent with Justin here and there and on all of these sets and working with him on all of these projects. Really, I suppose the thing you take away from it is, how do you grow from this?
Right.
What do you do now with this information? How do you help others? How do you better yourself and one another from this? You can only sit on being sad for so long, and it will always hurt.
Yes.
You know,
no, nobody's expected to get over this quickly.
There's always going to be a pain there that isn't going to go away very easily, and but you have to remember that even all the way up until the very end, Justin was trying. He had all of these different prospects, and even trying to work out Kamen Rider so that it could actually be something. Right up until the end, he was trying to make it work. He was trying to get this Patreon thing off the ground. He was potentially looking to get interviewed as some sort of game show host of some variety, and it sounded like it was a really good deal. Up until the very end, he was still working, and I think taking that, even at the age of 42, if you think you're too old, you don't stop, you know? You keep pushing through and you keep trying.
You know, for somebody like me, you know, thinking, you know, I'm getting closer and closer to 30 each day, I might have passed my prime already. That never mattered to him. He focused on being a hero so much that he went out there and he got it done. So that's something I personally take away, is that you're not too old to go out there and do what you want to do. You're not too old to go out there and be a hero.
I think that's a perfectly good place to leave off, and I will always miss my friend, you know?
Yes.
But that's okay, because we can now move on and do better things because of him.
Yes. So, to put it as best we can, Justin, you're going to be missed. Greatly
missed. I hate to so violently feel like I'm jumping to a completely different topic. But we do still have show that we want to do. And I guess even to wrap that up too, just like anybody else, just like Justin did, he always kept going with his projects even when it was hard.
Right.
So that's exactly what we're gonna do.
So, excuse me. As such, we do have a follow-up to last week's, one of last week's segments. I know we were doing a follow-up on Batman vs. Superman, and lo and behold, you know, just when we were getting ready to record this, just today around noon Central Time, this news broke and is now spreading currently like wildfire.
Straight out of a press release out of Warner Brothers.
And it's hit Variety, all the major news sites. We have a Lex Luthor for this Man of Steel sequel, this Batman vs. Superman movie, and it's not exactly at all who people expected.
No, I can honestly say not.
Jesse Eisenberg, who people would know from The Social Network, from Zombieland, from 30 Minutes or Less, has been cast in the role of Lex Luthor.
Is he too young? He strikes me as too young.
A lot of people are crying too young, and, you know, people have said that of other casting before, but this is the one time where admittedly, and understand, up until now I've been a proponent of, hey, let's wait and see what they have going here, but initially when I read this, I had to do a double take, like, wait, Jesse who? And then, you know, I blanked for a second, and then I had to do a quick IMDb search, and as soon as his picture came up, it all came flooding back, and I think to myself, him?
Well, because I think I picture him as nothing but characters with moppy hair.
Yeah.
Young moppy hair, and I don't know, that doesn't look like Lex Luthor to me.
Well, see, the thing we have to always take into account is the same thing we've said before about all the other casting, about keeping it Henry Cavill, about adding on Ben Affleck, and now Gal Gadot, and now, of course, Jesse Eisenberg. The studio had to see something in him. The writers, Zack Snyder, had to see something in him that resonates with their vision of what they want this story to be, how they want Lex Luthor to be.
I think all the other casting I can deal with, and yet this is the first time I've kind of just looked at him and gone, oh, I don't know. Usually, like, I feel like I've been able to keep a pretty open mind, but I have to admit I have reservations just looking at him.
Now, to be fair, he's played somebody who's been in charge. He's played the power game. You know, if you've watched The Social Network, his portrayal of Mark Zuckerberg there, that's probably what got him the job.
Uh-huh.
Like, let's keep that in perspective here. You're worried about the moppy hair because he's always had that haircut. If he goes completely method, he'll shave it.
Uh-huh.
So, that's another step there. At the least, it's going to be very interesting to see how he plays against Henry Cavill as Superman, because that really is the core of that series there. It's Superman versus Lex Luthor. It always comes down to that.
Right.
One thing I definitely don't see that's been played up in other versions, though, is that Lex is usually a suitor for Lois Lane, but come on, like, Lois could be his mom from the looks of it.
I know, right?
So I don't think they'll play that up nearly as much, or if they do, it'll be hard not to see that comically just from the outset.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just saying for Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Also, it was announced that veteran actor Jeremy Irons was cast in the role of Alfred.
I don't completely not see
actually,
that,
I see
you know?
it. I see it very much there.
Yeah. That one I agree with. I'm alright with Jeremy Irons.
You know, because he's an accomplished actor. They say as much. The reasons that they hired him is that he brings a weight, a gravitas to the role, kind of the way Michael Caine did, but more than likely it won't be... Hopefully it won't be as parodied as Michael Caine's has been up to this point.
Yeah, because Michael Caine's was so, like, kind of thick and gritty and...
Well, no, he just laid it on thick, really. You know, every movie it's, Master Wayne, I'm with you. Master Wayne, don't lose yourself. Master Wayne, don't die. You know, and it goes on and on like that throughout the whole movie.
I will not bury another member of the Wayne family.
Alfred, you're not gonna bury one of Wayne family. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. You know, going into that whole thing. Jeremy Irons, his voice will probably be a little bit easier on the ears.
Uh-huh.
I actually would prefer, and I think he can pull it off, the wit that's a little bit closer to the way Alfred was in the animated series, where he's not so much very emotional, but he's got a dry wit.
Yeah, I really like that Alfred's dry wit, a little bit sarcastic, like,
yeah.
Oh, he's out there, doing it again. Excuse me while I prepare the first aid kit, you know?
You know, that sort of thing. And really, we were saying before that they're going to have to cast these characters, and now we've got this coming down. It still remains to be seen whether or not they'll cast for Commissioner Gordon. There's still rumors flying around that there'll be some form of Robin in this, which, to be quite honest, worries me. But again, we'll have to see, because, one, I don't want this, and I don't think anybody wants this to be an over-encumbered cast.
Right, of course.
You know,
and it's starting to look like, oh, do we need all these characters? How can we focus on all these characters all at once?
But see, that's the problem. When you start telling a story like this, you have to include these characters. You can't tell Batman without Alfred. You know, you can't have Superman without Lex Luthor. So these guys had to come in, and it really remains to be seen how this is going to all play out. I think Ben Affleck and Jeremy Irons will play very well off each other, And yeah, I'll need to see some screen tests before I fully commit to Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. All I'm saying is he's got some ground to cover.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see, like, production shots,
because
honestly.
Honestly, I was with most of the camp out there on the internet saying that Bryan Cranston should have been Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Because he would have just knocked that out of the park.
I would agree with that.
You know, all that work on Breaking Bad, that doesn't leave much room to the imagination. Of course he could play Lex Luthor. However, I do want to put it this way, there might be a little light at the tunnel. I do remind people that he did at least in voice play Commissioner Gordon in the animated movie Batman Year One, so maybe, you know, we can tie that back in, maybe. He'd still knock that out of the park, I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
He already rocked glasses and a mustache before, and he's already technically played the role once. So maybe we can get the best of both worlds here.
We'll see. There's still so much ground to cover. There's still so much we don't actually know.
But of course, like we said, more information will come out over the coming months, so we'll sit on this and see what comes of it.
Right. That having been said, we'll go ahead and move on to what's technically the first topic of our show, and it's how many minutes in? It's like 20 minutes in.
Oh, we got this.
It turns out that there was a massive leak out of Microsoft.
Hey, somebody had to go.
Well, apparently. That's what Microsoft is hoping, is that they can get this guy to go. Anyway, there's someone who went onto the NeoGAF forums over these past few days and has just been laying down bombshell after bombshell of just information out of Microsoft in regards to Xbox One releases over the next few years. And everyone's just kind of going, what? Come on. The guy's name, he's going by NTKRNL, Net Kernel, I guess.
So we don't have this guy's real name at all.
We do not have this guy's real name, but through Kotaku, they were able to confirm from someone reliable that this guy does in fact work with Microsoft. And as it turns out, Microsoft is looking to find this guy, fire him, and sue him.
Well, because, let's just cut straight to the meat of this. This is basically, this guy is the Edward Snowden of Microsoft.
Yeah, basically, he's dropping information about, little things like, Microsoft joining with a cloud processing company called CloudGen, and the details aren't real specific on that, but then there's specific details like the Halo 2 anniversary is scheduled for November 11th, and Fable Legends will come out in 2015. There's all kinds of stuff like there's a white Xbox One coming, or the Halo anniversary 2 will be 1080p. Quantum Break comes out in holiday 2014. There was a canceled Black Tusk project called Shangheist. The next Gears of War project will probably need 2.5 years worth of development time. A bunch of information about Titanfall DLC. There's just stuff.
Everything.
And stuff. And stuff. He's got a list of all these different countries that are considered quote-unquote second tier, that basically have not gotten their Xbox One local releases yet, but they will this year. Clearly Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, and Hong Kong, among others, will be getting their Xbox Ones in April. And then China, Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, all sorts of other countries will be getting theirs in October. There's just all this info, and I'm I haven't even read half of it.
The first thing that comes to my mind, why would you do this?
He says he's not scared.
Scared of what?
To quote him, he says, "I am incapable of fear. Plus, this is such exciting stuff, and me talking about it ahead of time isn't going to hurt anybody, truthfully. We're all chomping at the bit for it to come out. This is not bad."
Yeah, this makes me think this guy's an idiot. Because really, this isn't, again, making that parallel, or rather, debunking the parallel. This isn't like Edward Snowden, where it's like, you know what, the people have a right to know they're being spied on. They have a right to know what the government knows about them. Versus this guy who's like, all of Xbox secrets, here you go. And there's no real reason for it. Like, is Sony paying him off?
I don't know.
Is there a reason?
But
like,
you can see clearly, like, what he knows and what anybody knows internally is subject to change, right? So, no matter what this guy says, even if it's true now, it might not be true in the future. Like, there's supposed to be this Titanfall Xbox One bundle coming out, and in fact, there's pictures of it that he leaked, too. However, now it might not even be released. It's entirely possible it might not even be released.
Yeah, because it's like, good going, jerk. We had all these surprises set up, and you ruined it.
But yeah, clearly you can see why, even if the stuff isn't true, you can see why Microsoft would be like, we've got to find this guy.
Well,
like,
yeah, because he's made a laughingstock of them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you have all these probably well thought out, well planned ideas that you're planning to distribute over the course of the year, and this guy takes away your element of surprise, which for some people that's all you've got. Mm-hmm. And now they don't even have that, thanks to this guy. Not even that.
So, like, yeah, it wasn't a matter of, oh, we as gamers deserve to know what's happening, because, you know what, we don't. We don't deserve any of it. It's cool information, but then it's also very likely misinformation, because some of these things are like, oh, the information, stuff isn't coming out until 2015 or 2016. You know, it's so far away, there's any room for change.
Right.
So, even though it's cool information, we should, even if it's true, take it with a grain of salt.
Well, okay, getting back to it, how much trouble is this guy in? Because this isn't Edward Snowden where it's like, I'm gonna go and hide in Russia. No, dude, you're gonna be lucky to get out of the state.
Well, you know for one, Microsoft wants him out. You know for another, Microsoft wants to sue him. And then as a third point, you can pretty much be assured that the guy will never be able to get a job ever again if he's caught.
Unless it's like working fast food, because nobody's going to let you near a computer again.
Yeah, well, nobody's going to trust him with secret details. Like, you sign an NDA, basically, to work for certain companies. I just took a job myself just this week, and I can't let out company secrets, basically. Like, that comes with certain jobs. Yeah. So, like, this guy, he just plain doesn't give up, you know? Like...
And what was the things he was saying? Like, I'm not scared?
Yeah, he's like, I'm not scared, and anyway, this stuff is cool. It's not gonna hurt anybody.
Well, see, that's the thing Snowden never said was, this is cool.
Or,
like,
this isn't gonna hurt anybody. I'm not scared. Well, he might have said, I'm not scared, but then he ran away to other
halfway
countries.
Across the world. So that kind of says something, actions speaking louder than words, versus this guy, where it's like, dude... First off, I still can't wrap my mind around why he would do this. But second off, like, it's all cool. This is cool stuff. That's your reasoning. This is your big crusade.
He was just so excited he couldn't hold it in. Plainly, like, oh man, everybody's got to know, and I'm gonna be the hero. Like,
dude,
makes me wonder how old this guy is. Actually,
he can't be older than mid-20s or mentally 14.
Well, I suppose he could be way older, but only so much mentality, I suppose, or so much maturity. Past that, like his list, like I said, is crazy long. No information on Crackdown 3 since it's a 2016 release title. He's got no idea what Rare's up to. I guess that's news. I don't know if I mentioned there could be a cheaper Xbox One for $399 if they make it potentially without the optical disc drive, which would terrify me. I wouldn't really want the system without a disk drive.
Right.
So you know what? That information means nothing to me. Especially when... actually, we were just talking to a friend the other day about, like, downloadable content and downloadable games. And if you rely solely on downloadable games and then you decide, oh, I don't have the space for it, I want to download something else, and then you come back to it and you're like, you know what, I missed this old game, I'm going to download it. Oh, sorry, we removed it off of the network.
Yeah, now I remember this conversation.
We're not offering it anymore, so that money you spent, it means nothing now because your game just disappeared.
Okay, so you downloaded this game to, what was it, Steam?
Well, Steam is one, but Steam usually doesn't tear...
But as an example...
PlayStation Network does it a lot, actually.
Okay, so you've downloaded this game into your PlayStation Network, and now we're going to check to see if it's where... And it's gone!
Xbox Live? Oh, you downloaded a game from Xbox Live, like 2-3 years ago? Oh, sorry, we just don't offer it anymore. What are you gonna do?
And it's gone.
Guess you're gonna have to buy a physical copy now. Oh, but you've got a system that doesn't have an optical drive. Oh, that sucks, man. I guess you're gonna have to buy another Xbox One.
Nope.
See, the news about an optical drive-less Xbox One means nothing to me. Really means nothing to me. So,
but bottom line, this guy's had it.
Oh, well, once he's found, he's not going to work again.
See, here's what I'm thinking, though. Obviously, this is an inside job.
Well, clearly.
Obviously.
Clearly.
So, what's to say this dude isn't running around the offices there and Microsoft being like, psst, dude, come here, real quick. You know that big old leak? That guy everybody's looking for? It's totally me! And then his friend's like, I'll be right back! And then totally turns him in.
Something tells me he wouldn't do that.
I don't know. Like, this guy doesn't strike me as the brightest bulb in the knife drawer.
I think if he's gonna tell anybody, he's gonna tell friends that don't work for Microsoft.
Yeah, but they could still tell on him.
Yeah, if they're dicks of friends, you know.
What if there's a reward involved?
Well, then you just turned your bro in for money. Like, well, aren't you an a-hole?
Well, because really there's the two mindsets on the subject. It's either snitches get stitches, or snitches get paid. And also get stitches, but at least they can afford to get sewn back up.
Right.
So, I don't know, dude, like, you rolled the ball on this. Whatever happens next, that's on you.
Rolled the dice.
Yeah.
Rolled the dice. Really, that's about all the information I can give right now. I will go ahead and drop links either to the Kotaku article or really the forum is where he dropped all the information, the NeoGAF forum. And I'll link you guys to that in the information box below.
Alright. So I guess that means I will talk about the next subject.
Go for it.
So this movie coming out just shortly from now on March 29th, 2014. For the last couple of years, we've had these things called the superhero wars. You know, pitting, the Super Sentai teams versus, I know it's kind of redundant to say, but Super Sentai teams versus Kamen Riders, even though they're not really fighting for the most part. They kind of are, but at the end they team up. And that's been running for the last 2 years, one with Superhero Wars, and then this past year with Superhero Wars Z. Well, this year they're doing a slightly different take on it with just really focusing on Kamen Rider as a franchise. And it's going to be the old school Showa Riders versus the new school Heisei Riders in what they're calling Heisei Rider versus Showa Rider, Kamen Rider War featuring Super Sentai.
That title's too long, just like they are always too long.
Yes. And really when it comes to Super Sentai, it's only going to be 2 teams instead of, many teams as they do every year. It's only going to be, I believe, the Kyoryugers and now the Tokyugers, the next team coming out. Briefly cameoing there. But really the movie's not about them, it's about the writers. And of course the topic gets brought up time and time again. Why do they have to fight? They're good guys. There's no need for this.
You hear also the quotes out of them like, you Heisei writers, you're not true writers, there can only be the Showa writers. Like, why are you having that argument at all?
Well, see, one thing...
That makes you sound like such a douche.
Well, see, it's one thing when fans have that argument, it's another thing when your main original character is having that argument with someone.
Like, it almost makes me hope that they do the really crappy thing where they're like, ha, it wasn't really him the whole time, or he was under some mind control.
Well,
or
here's the problem with that. According to an interview with the head of Toei, producer Shinichiro Shirakura, he was talking about this movie just recently, and what he wants to bring around for this particular movie is that, whereas, here's the quote right here. Every year it's always been something versus something. There is no real fighting. Even if there is confrontation, they befriend each other in the end and join forces. This has been the same for 40 years. He then announced that in this great Kamen Rider war, a score will be settled. Showa or Heisei, there will be a victor.
Why? Why does there need to be?
Yes, here where you would expect them to be like, you know, we can settle our differences. We're both pretty cool in our own respects. Here they want to change the formula now and say, no, one of them's going to come out on top.
Why? Because, I mean, why would you specifically say, oh, some of our riders are better than the other riders, thereby, like, diminishing the possible sale of past toys and figures of those, because who's going to want the figures of the guy who's plainly the loser?
Yeah, that's hard enough as it is. Toei was having a hard enough time selling older figures. That's why they made Decade.
Uh-huh.
You know, because, you know, that's what Decade's purpose was to regenerate interest in older properties as far as Kamen Rider is concerned. And what happens here in this movie, as opposed to other movies, where usually in these team-up movies, it's always Shocker, the original organization fighting them. It's Shocker, Super Shocker, Space Shocker, Jamaican Shocker, whatever kind of Shocker you want. This time they're finally deciding, you know what, we're gonna give a different evil organization a chance. And as such, they're focusing a little bit more on...
I don't know, somebody suggested online that maybe it is just Shocker under a different name.
Well, I'll go into that real quick. The organization that they're saying is the evil organization in this particular movie is the evil organization Badan, which some people might know was the evil organization that's responsible for the creation of Kamen Rider Z-Cross. Mm-hmm. And Z-Cross in and of himself is notable because he's the only writer who only got a special. He only had like a 40-minute special, and that's all the footage that exists solely for him.
Right.
Any other appearance was always, you know, a suit actor just for a second, not really his story. Mm-hmm. But as such, his story has continued on over in Japan, the very popular Kamen Rider Spirits manga, which expands upon his story and really the story of the other original 10 writers from the Showa era. And it's a great read. If you have a chance, you know, I definitely recommend getting into that. As such, because they're focusing on Badan, it's nice to know that Shun Sugata, who played the role of Murasame Ryo, Kamen Rider Z-Cross, is coming back to reprise his role. And that's really saying something, considering out of all the original actors, he's really the one that I would say has had the most success outside of Kamen Rider.
As an actor.
As an actor. Because you might have seen him in The Last Samurai. You might have seen him in Bunraku just recently. In all these other movies, he's branched out. You know, made a name for himself.
But he still is choosing to come back and reprise a role.
Yes, really one of the earliest roles he ever had. Interestingly enough, as far as that story goes, Z-Cross faced off against Badan, and one of the bad guys there was this guy called Ambassador Darkness. And Ambassador Darkness is really just a repaint of a Rider 1 bad guy. Uh-huh. Interestingly enough for this movie, Shun Sugata will be playing both Z-Cross and Ambassador Darkness. So I'm not sure what that means for the plot itself. And of course, one of the most notable things about this movie is, as opposed to other Rider Wars, movie wars, what have you, the number of returning actors who are coming back to reprise their roles as Kamen Riders. We have Kento Honda coming back to reprise his role as Faiz. We have Double coming back, and of course the big name that shocked everybody. Oh my God, he's suiting up again. Hiroshi Fujioka is reprising his role as Rider 1.
That is the most important part, but it's the part where it makes me upset to hear him say, "Oh, you guys aren't riders," but, like, why would he say that?
Yeah, see, that's the weird thing, because really he should be the one... In fact, if you look at all the other movies, he's displayed as the one saying, as long as, evil exists, we will all come together. Keyword there, come together,
yeah,
to rise up and defeat evil. So, really, like, Takeshi Honggo, why are you being a dick?
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Because that's very out of character for him.
That's why I almost think, man, this had better be some other dude. He better be under some kind of control of some variety, even though I hate that. I can't stand that. But, like, I really don't want to think that he would say something like that.
Well, because, see, here's an interesting thing, and I can only read into this so much, but I think it's worth noting. When it was first announced that he was coming back to play this role, I instantly was like, yes! Oh, this is sweet! Oh, this is excellent! But then I looked down at his belt, and I couldn't help but notice that he's wearing the wrong belt. Because, I'll just touch on this briefly, I don't need to get fully into it.
It's okay, go ahead,
Rider 1 and Rider 2 eventually have more or less the same belt. The distinguishing feature is that Rider 2's belt has the Tachibana Racing logo on it that splits open when he transforms. Hongo's belt does not do this.
Oops!
See, this is more or less the same thing as, like, the filming over here for Power Rangers Super Mega Force. You bring back Jason David Frank as the Green Ranger, but you give him a silver morpher.
Oops!
Like, your original guy, and you couldn't get that right? Like, really, guys? We're down to this? And it's like other continuity errors in costume. Like, Toei's done it before. It's happened several times where, somebody's missing a thing, or somebody's wearing the wrong color thing. Like, that happens. But when it comes to your flagship guy, you'd think you'd pay a little bit more attention there.
Yeah.
I mean, that might just be me.
No, that seems really important. Because, yeah, if he's your flagship guy, he's your first guy, like, so when he transforms, have we seen him in suit yet?
Well, there's already been clips and trailers out showing that he does indeed transform, in typical, really legendary by this point, his Rider Henshin!
I didn't ask for that, but
You knew it was coming. It's me, you knew it was coming.
What I asked is, have we seen him in the suit? I mean, like, not him, but, have we seen the suit from this movie?
Oh, yeah, it's the same old Rider 1 suit that it's always been.
Okay, so everything looks correct there?
Yes.
He has the correct amount of stripes?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just when he's out of suit, he's wearing the wrong belt.
Okay. So long as he didn't transform into the wrong rider entirely.
Right. No, it's not anything that big. It's just, it's a pet peeve.
I know.
Now, they're saying the reason that they decided to do this is now the numbers match up. There are 15 Heisei riders now, so that matches up with 15 Showa riders. So they're evenly matched, even though there's still going to be a bit of, secondary riders showing up, mainly from Gaim. Since, this is their year, they have to show up at one point or another. I can't say what I really want to expect from this movie, because, understand, there was a point when thinking about writers teaming up again was a foregone thought. Like, you didn't think it was going to happen again. You just wished.
Yeah. And
then really with Decade's movie, All Riders vs. Dai Shocker, that's really what I wanted. I just wanted to see a field of these guys, old generation and new, teaming up to kick some butt. And I already got that. I got that again in, All Riders Let's Go Kamen Rider. They've already done that.
You don't want them to fight each other. I mean, somebody, I'm sure, wants to see them fight. I'm sure, again, it's a fanboy thing, like, my rider's better than your rider. But it's like, no, you guys are bros. What are you doing? Stop fighting. No.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. Stop it.
It's not cool, guys. Like, we're all friends here. We're all fighting for the same thing.
And that's the thing that worries me, because even up till now, and yeah, we've got about a month 2 months to go, I haven't seen any footage of them teaming up to fight monsters, and that kind of worries me.
Yeah, I see why.
Because normally in early promos, we would have seen that already.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen it. We see 15 versus 15 facing off on a field, and then Rider 1 fighting Gaim.
But why?
I don't know.
That's what I keep going back to, and
why?
if we keep on this topic, I'm just going to keep asking why.
So, like, am I interested? Of course I'm interested. This is my franchise of choice, obviously, but I don't know. This one has me a little bit worried. Admittedly, there's a nice picture out of all 15 of them together, no secondary riders. I wish they would make a nice print of that I could put on my wall.
I get it. Yeah,
because I've always wanted a print of just the riders all together. It's hard. It's really hard to get posters like that. But, aside from that, my own collection preferences, this movie's coming out March 29th. We're still a little ways away, so we'll see if we get more information about why they're fighting.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, you kind of brought up about how fanboys kind of ruin things.
Well, it's entirely possible. Well, Hayao Miyazaki seems to think so, too. So, apparently he had a recent television interview, and I'm getting some of this information off of, Anime News Network, of course, and Rocket News I've found to very quickly, actually, to be one of my newer, more favorite pages, honestly. Mm-hmm. So supposedly, fanboys are ruining the anime industry. And
as Miyazaki sees it.
As Miyazaki sees it. And the funny thing is, usually, we'll have this argument, oh, those dang fans, they're doing all this pirating, and that's not this argument.
No.
That's where I thought this article was going at first, and then I was completely wrong. As it turns out, apparently Miyazaki is more subscribes to the line of, that too many otaku are actually getting into the industry to work. And, these are people who don't know how to socialize with real human beings. They don't want to be around real human beings. And so they can't create stories and characters and people who actually interact with each other as people do.
Now, see, I have to see this argument from both sides here.
I'm on Miyazaki's side, 100%.
Let's round this out, in the time we've got here. Let's round this out. One, it's the dream of otaku to be able to get into the industry that you love.
Oh, sure.
That you can actually get into animation, get into, storyboarding, heck, even voice acting. You want to be able to make the thing you're passionate about the thing that you do for a living.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the people getting into the industry can just not do a good job at their job.
Well, see, that's the other side of it. Miyazaki's point is absolutely, valid. If you're getting in there, but you're so focused on the way you view things in this very otaku way, mm-hmm. then yeah, you're not going to be doing your job to the best of your ability. That makes perfect sense there.
Yeah, of course.
And the thing is, I guess it's a little harder for an English-speaking audience to understand what he means by that, because whereas over here, Northern America, people use otaku in kind of this interchangeable way with nerd, hey, I'm cool because I'm otaku, that's awesome, I hang out with my otaku friends, and we're cool, but over there, the meaning of that word is not the same and not nearly as positive.
Well, to be fair, the word nerd is something that we nerds have had to take back too.
Right.
Because nerd is, if you take this classic sort of stereotype that comes with it, it's fairly derogatory. Oh, look at you, you got these pocket protectors, and you got the tape around the glasses, and you can't socialize, and you're not good at sports and peopling, like nobody wants to hang out with you, you're a loser, blah blah blah. To be quite honest, the source of the word comes from a different place, but I would dare say they're almost the same. You can be a nerd of different things, just like you can be an otaku of different things. You can
Right.
be an anime otaku, or you can be a game otaku, or you can be a military otaku, or heck, you can be a train otaku.
But the idea is the word basically denotes that you can't function without thing.
Shoot, that's like let's think outside of ourselves for a second
alright.
here. If I go to work and I work doing basically a government kind of job, I can't talk to those people about anything. And if you bring up the word nerd, they've got this connotation, all these normal people have this connotation that comes with it, where they don't want to hang out with a nerd, so I have to, keep most of the things that I care about inside myself while I'm at work, because I've even heard my coworkers say, I can't hang out with nerds, they're too nerdy, I can't do their nerdy things. And yet they're sitting there not knowing just how big of a nerd I really am.
But it's the thing, when you're in a professional setting, you understand that there's a certain expectation that you remove a bit of that so that you can do your job.
Right.
But when that gets in the way of things, that's just not professional.
Well, then how can you say that, 'cause honestly, you go in as an animator to do a certain job, and your job is to tell a story about characters and people, and if you are incapable of really knowing how human beings function with one another, I completely see Miyazaki's point. And
Right.
Admittedly, it's far easier to get into the industry now than it once was because of technology. You can be
Right.
really talented at it. Really, you need to put these people in the proper positions so that they can get the proper direction.
But Miyazaki's point there is that the positions that they're in, they're not doing their job in.
Exactly.
Or to the best of their ability, I should say.
Then these jobs need to be rehired for. Those people who are otaku, who are doing what they think that they love, either need some retraining, or they need to be moved to a different position. Don't get them out of the industry, but clearly, I think everyone wants to make the best material possible. Everyone wants to see the best material possible. The truth of the matter is, not everybody gets to do the exact job they think they were going to be doing, or else, there'd be too many of us doing all the exact same thing, and there's not enough room for it all. You can't all be the director.
Right.
Not all of these, 20,000 people can be the director of this one anime, clearly. So then what job can they do? You have to put them in the place that is best for them. And if it turns out that this otaku really loves doing what he's doing, but he just needs a little bit of help, then you help guide him.
Well, see, the point that he makes is that these otaku don't spend enough time watching real people and are humans who can't stand looking at other humans. Really, that tells me he's talking about the animators.
That might be, but I would also say perhaps something that he leaves out, which I would agree that he leaves out, is that these people need to take direction. And that the person directing, specifically either the director or the producer or just the animation director, needs to be able to come in and say, no, this human needs to look like this, or they need to be able to interact with this person like this. These are people who should be put in, again, directing, animation directing, producing, and script writing positions. I think that otaku who really are not capable of quite performing those tasks
really,
up to
the
par,
ones who get lost in
they should
in
definitely
the
be animators. They should definitely be in the industry, but if they want to direct or produce, they're gonna need a little bit of help.
Well, if you look at Miyazaki's work, all of the stuff that he's produced and put out there, a lot of what you see in there is very real stories, real animation, stuff that feels like, you know what, that looks real to me. That feels real to me. And that's really what people, the world over respond to, is the realism in his animation. And yeah, he would hold other people up to the standard that he himself has helped provide. So yeah, he's totally within his rights. And I think really what that speaks to is, whoever he's talking to specifically, you got to step your game up.
Well, I think, again, that this does not necessarily mean that otaku should not pursue dreams of animation. I mean, far from it.
No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that.
It does mean that if you're going to pursue certain jobs in creating a show or an OVA or a movie or what have you, you need certain kinds of training, or you need to work side by side along somebody else who's been doing it, who's maybe critically acclaimed for having done this. You can't just jump straight into it after having just watched a whole bunch of anime and going, I can do that too.
Right,
That's the same with any job. You can love movies, but that doesn't make you qualified to be a director.
Yeah, same thing happens anywhere. You can love music, but that does not mean you're qualified to pick up a microphone and start singing.
Right, exactly. That's the point I'm coming from.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Perhaps that's a point that Miyazaki doesn't elaborate on. But
I definitely see that.
Yeah. Not everybody who loves a thing is qualified to work in that thing.
Yes.
And that's not just anime, that's anything.
And if you do really feel that in your heart you need to be doing this thing, but you don't already do it, then you need to work.
Yeah,
and you need to
start
perfect your craft.
practicing it.
And that's really what people want, is for you to have put in the work and produce something, because nobody gets it right on the first try.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no matter how much of a natural you are, you've got to go in there and you've got to practice day in, day out what your craft is until you put out the best possible product that you can.
It does take proving yourself. I wish it could be as easy as, alright, you clearly know what you're doing, now fly! And it just doesn't work like that. Real world, people. Real world.
You think this is a game? This is real life.
What if they want to work on a game?
Then you need to study real life.
Alright.
I think that was good.
I think we need to be wrapping up at this point because we're running low on the hour.
Okay.
But I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us again this week. And I know that early on in the show we did have an emotional ride. I hope we didn't lose you in all of that. It was something that was very important to us. And it was very personal sort of details. That having been said, we've got 2 more episodes left of this season. We might still do the 24th episode live. We're still thinking on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just 2 more episodes to go. Then we'll probably take a short break. And then come back with season 3. And we're just going to be live. All the time, man. All the time live.
Although season 3 might take a break because reasons later on down the road.
Oh yeah, like wedding related reasons. Like that's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll let you guys know about that.
Yeah, okay. So, that having been said, I guess we'll go ahead and close down for now and see you guys next week. And until then, you can follow us on Twitter. I, of course, am at MarsGirlProd.
And I'm at Josh Knight First.
And so we'll, again, be seeing you next week. Take care, you guys.
Alright, we'll see you then.